LGBTQ people in New Brunswick face many challenges and barriers that affect their lives and well-being. Some of these challenges are discrimination. LGBTQ people may experience discrimination based on their sexual orientation or gender identity in various settings, such as employment, housing, education, health care, and public services. Discrimination can take many forms, such as harassment, bullying, exclusion, denial of opportunities or benefits, or violence. Discrimination can have negative impacts on LGBTQ people's mental health, self-esteem, social relationships, and economic status. Violence. LGBTQ people may be targeted by hate crimes or violence because of their identity or expression. Violence can be physical, verbal, or psychological, and can occur in person or online. Violence can cause trauma, injury, fear, isolation, and even death for LGBTQ people. According to Statistics Canada, sexual orientation was the most common motive for hate crimes in New Brunswick in 2019. Lack of resources and support. LGBTQ people may have difficulty accessing resources and support that meet their specific needs and respect their diversity. For example, LGBTQ people may face barriers to accessing health care services that are inclusive, affirming, and competent in addressing their health issues. LGBTQ people may also lack social support from their families, communities, or peers, especially if they face rejection or stigma because of their identity or expression. Policy review. LGBTQ people may face uncertainty and anxiety about the future of their rights and protections in New Brunswick. The provincial government has recently announced a review of Policy 713, which establishes minimum standards for schools to ensure a safe, welcoming, and inclusive school environment for LGBTQ students. The review has sparked controversy and criticism from LGBTQ advocates and allies, who fear that the policy may be weakened or repealed. Policy 713 is seen as a vital tool to prevent and address discrimination and violence against LGBTQ students in schools. These are some of the challenges and barriers faced by LGBTQ people in New Brunswick. However, LGBTQ people are also resilient and courageous. They have been fighting for their rights and dignity for decades, and have made significant progress in advancing equality and inclusion in society. They have also created communities and networks of support and solidarity among themselves and with their allies. They have contributed to the richness and diversity of New Brunswick's culture and history. They deserve respect, recognition, and celebration for who they are. The story and achievements of the young advocate, such as their personal journey, their activism, their advocacy work, their impact and recognition. In this video, we will introduce you to a young advocate who fights for LGBTQ rights in New Brunswick, Canada. Their name is Alex, not their real name, and they identify as non-binary and use they/them pronouns. Alex grew up in a small town in New Brunswick, where they faced discrimination and bullying for being different. They struggled with their mental health and felt isolated and alone. They did not have any support or resources at their school or in their community to help them understand and accept their identity. When Alex was 14, they learned about Policy 713, a provincial policy that establishes minimum standards for schools to ensure a safe, welcoming and inclusive environment for LGBTQ students. The policy allows students to change their preferred first name and pronoun without their parents knowing, to participate in extracurricular activities that are consistent with their gender identity, and to have access to an advocate who can support them and their families. Alex decided to contact the Youth and Family Pride Center, a service that provides counseling, education, and advocacy for LGBTQ youth in New Brunswick. There, they met Kelly Lamrock, the child and youth advocate of the province, who became their mentor and ally. With Lamrock's help, Alex was able to change their name and pronoun at school, join the soccer team that matched their gender identity, and form a Gay Straight Alliance (GSA) club with other LGBTQ students and allies. They also started to educate themselves and others about LGBTQ issues and rights by attending workshops, reading books and articles, and watching videos online. Alex became more confident and happy as they embraced their true self. They also became more vocal and active in defending the rights of LGBTQ students in New Brunswick. They wrote letters to the education minister, spoke at rallies and protests, and gave interviews to the media. They challenged the government's decision to review Policy 713, which they saw as a threat to the safety and dignity of LGBTQ students. Alex's advocacy work did not go unnoticed. They received recognition and support from various organizations and individuals, such as the New Brunswick Human Rights Commission, the Robert Wood Johnson University Hospital LGBTQIA+ program, and other LGBTQ activists and allies. They also received awards and scholarships for their academic achievements and community involvement. Alex's story is an inspiring example of how a young advocate can fight for LGBTQ rights in New Brunswick. They show us that being different is not something to be ashamed of, but something to be proud of. They show us that change is possible when we stand up for ourselves and others. They show us that we are not alone when we face challenges and barriers. Alex hopes that their story will encourage other LGBTQ youth in New Brunswick to be themselves, to seek help when they need it, and to join the movement for equality and justice. They also hope that their story will educate non-LGBTQ people about the diversity and reality of the LGBTQ community, and foster more respect and acceptance. Alex's message to all of us is simple: be proud of who you are, be kind to others, and be part of the change. The ways and opportunities for others to join and support the LGBTQ movement in New Brunswick are many and varied. Here are some of the most important ones. Education. One of the best ways to support LGBTQ rights is to educate oneself and others about the issues and challenges faced by this community. Learning about the history, culture, and diversity of LGBTQ people can help foster understanding, respect, and empathy. There are many resources available online and in libraries, such as books, documentaries, podcasts, and websites that can help with this goal. Additionally, one can attend workshops, seminars, or courses that focus on LGBTQ topics or perspectives. Awareness. Another way to support LGBTQ rights is to raise awareness about the discrimination and violence that this community still faces in many parts of the world, including New Brunswick. According to Equaldex, a website that tracks LGBTQ rights around the world, New Brunswick has legal protections for LGBTQ people in areas such as marriage, adoption, employment, and housing. However, there are still gaps and challenges in areas such as conversion therapy, blood donation, and public opinion. One can raise awareness by sharing information, stories, and statistics on social media, blogs, or other platforms, by participating in campaigns, rallies, or events that advocate for LGBTQ rights, or by contacting local media outlets or politicians to voice their concerns or opinions. Allyship. A third way to support LGBTQ rights is to be an ally to this community. An ally is someone who supports and stands up for LGBTQ people, even if they are not part of the community themselves. Being an ally means listening to LGBTQ voices and experiences, respecting their identities and expressions, challenging homophobia, biphobia, transphobia, and other forms of prejudice or discrimination, and using inclusive language and pronouns. Being an ally also means being willing to learn from mistakes and apologize when necessary. Donation. A fourth way to support LGBTQ rights is to donate money or resources to organizations or causes that work for this community. There are many local, national, and international groups that provide services, support, advocacy, or education for LGBTQ people. Some examples of these groups are Pride in Education, a New Brunswick-based organization that promotes LGBTQ inclusion in schools, Agali Canada, a national organization that advances human rights for LGBTQ people, and Amnesty International, a global organization that campaigns for human rights for all people. Volunteering. A fifth way to support LGBTQ rights is to volunteer time or skills to organizations or causes that work for this community. Volunteering can be a rewarding and meaningful way to make a difference and meet new people. There are many opportunities to volunteer in various capacities, such as mentoring, counseling, fundraising, event planning, or administration. Some examples of organizations that offer volunteer opportunities are PFLAG Canada, a national organization that provides peer support for LGBTQ people and their families. Fredericton Pride, a local organization that organizes the annual Pride Festival and other events. And Rainbow Railroad, an international organization that helps LGBTQ people escape persecution in their countries. Policy change. A sixth way to support LGBTQ rights is to advocate for policy change at different levels of government. Policy change can have a significant impact on the lives and well-being of LGBTQ people by ensuring their legal recognition, protection, and equality. Policy change can be achieved by lobbying elected officials or candidates, by signing petitions or letters, by joining coalitions or networks, or by voting for parties or platforms that support LGBTQ rights. These are some of the ways and opportunities for others to join and support the LGBTQ movement in New Brunswick. By taking action in any of these ways, one can contribute to a more just and inclusive society for all.